Good morning. I'm Claudia Marshall, your worship leader. Well, it's Women's Month, Craft Month, Stewardship Month, and today we're also dedicating our banned book library. Right now, our beloved member, Bruce Kristol, is presenting his stewardship story. Following Bruce's presentation, our friend Job Meiller will Paint the Whole Picture. Well, here's Bruce.
When I was asked to join the stewardship team, I didn't know what that was. Because I kept thinking, are they a server? Yeah, right. And then I did a little more investigation, and I got really intimidated because it's really about money. And when I was a member of the synagogue, and they kept hitting me with money, I said, we don't need a new building. We don't need, But I am honored, and it's been a pleasure. So this morning, be a little different too. Olivia Newton-John's song, Grace and Gratitude, has been inspiring to me. I think you all know who Olivia Newton-John was. I was fortunate to meet Olivia Newton-John on 4 occasions. In 2008, July and March, December 2010, and 2020. The last time we met was when I was invited by her husband, John Easterling, my Amazon Herb Company friend, just a few weeks after my wife died, Thanksgiving week of 2019. Olivia's compassionate and most sensitive support to me in my grief was deeply touching as she extended her love to me with hugs, cheek touches. Her optimism about life matched her beautiful voice, and she was never hampered by the 3 recurrent episodes of cancer. She remained a beacon of grace, gratitude, and generosity for me over the years. Olivia set up and financed in 2012 the Olivia Newton-John Cancer and Wellness Center at the Austin Hospital in Melbourne, Australia. She sold portions of her real estate portfolio, with the proceeds going toward her charitable causes. She was recognized by various organizations, including the American Red Cross, Environmental Media Association, and the Rainforest Alliance for her ongoing charitable and environmental efforts. And she went to the Amazon numerous times with John Easterling, her husband, who they were married many years ago. She never gave up believing in wellness throughout her cancer ordeals and her passing in 2022. When I think about my UU experience over the years, grace, gratitude, and generosity as demonstrated by Olivia takes precedent and continues to be paramount. When I listen to sermons delivered by David, Jennifer, and others, when I hear Beth reading children's stories with themes of kindness, generosity, and gratitude, and healthy morality built in, I feel empowered. When I listen to Gary's beautiful piano, I feel at home. I feel their love and generosity of spirit. When I look around and see families of generational UUs, Francis, Linda, when we sing Spirit of Life every Sunday, my heart truly opens. It's a challenge to hold back tears. It's indeed what challenged me yesterday at Pete's beautiful celebration of life, to hold back emotion. It's here at BBUC with my fellow UUs that I believe together we can invest our positive energy and resources using Olivia Newton-John as a role model of grace, gratitude, to make our BBUUC a supportive and welcoming place for everyone through programming, community involvement, and inclusion and social action, and especially as developing our spiritual vitality and relationships with each other. I encourage everyone to invest their time and energy and financial commitment during our current pledge drive so that we can make our community and world a better place for all of us, filled with love, generosity, and gratitude. So finally, getting your pledge cards in by the 27th so you can be part of the raffle for $50 gift certificates and pizza by the 30th will be deeply appreciated. That's the real pitch right there. So when I think about our social action and things that I'm not comfortable going out to the streets and promoting certain things, I know there are individuals here that do it for me, Mike. I know there are people who will stand up for what I believe in, but I might not have the courage. That's part of what we do, a big part of what you UUs do. And this is something that will be, I think, generationally transmitted, that I hope the families that are here will really embrace. So thank you.
I don't usually chat before these things, but I wrote this song specifically for this sermon, and it has a bit of a, in Facebook world where you get you show the green grass. This actual line in the song is you can't just show the green grass, you gotta love the dirt. It doesn't flow. I mean, it's not real melodic, that line, but it's good. Picture, black and the white, good and the bad, darkness and the light, and everything, give thanks. Paint the whole picture, heavens and the earth, all that comes between passing and the birth, and everything. Give thanks. Paint the whole picture, no stone unturned. Love the fire, even when it burns, and everything. Give thanks. Take all them experiences, put them all in the bank. It's the lonesome of you and me. Let us all give thanks. Paint the whole picture, the lightning and the rain, ebb and flow of circumstance, losses and the gains, and everything. Give thanks. Paint the whole picture, include what's hurting you. You can't taste the rainbow till you've simmered in the blues, and everything. Give thanks. Paint the whole picture, not just the greenest grass. Learn to love a dirt patch, the opportunities past, and everything. Give thanks. experiences, put them all in the bank. It's the love song of you and me. Let us all give thanks. Paint the whole picture, the blessing and the curse. It was all a gift to you, the best times and the worst, and everything. Give thanks. Take all them experiences, put them all in the bank. It's the love song of you and me. Let us all give thanks.
Now that's how you start a morning, huh? Oh, well, I am so grateful for time change and spring. So I thought this would be kind of appropriate to start. Transformations. A metamorphosis may be majestic, as when caterpillar becomes butterfly, brilliant as carbon to diamond. But it is enough to release the piercing frigidity, the brittle rigidity of ice, and embrace the versatile, vital, blessing, bathing embodiment of water. Now it's time for our Time for All Ages with our Director of Religious Education, Beth Curtis. Come on, Beth.
Good morning. Good morning. Have you ever felt that the world's problems are just too big? Yeah, maybe these days especially, right? Like no matter what you do, it really won't make a difference. I think we all feel that way sometimes. But I want to share a story that reminds us how even the smallest act of kindness can have a huge impact. It's a story about a little boy, the ocean, and some very lucky starfish. And the story is called The Boy and the Starfish. Grandma, the young girl asked, her brow furrowed in thought, I was talking to my friend at school today, and she said it doesn't matter if we try to help people because there are just too many problems in the world. Is that true? Does it really matter if we try? Grandma paused for a moment, thinking. That's a big question, my dear. It reminds me of a story I once heard, a story about a young boy, the ocean, and some very lucky starfish. The girl looked curious. A boy and a starfish? What happened? Well, let me tell you, Grandma said, settling in comfortably. It's a lovely tale. Once upon a time, on a beautiful sunny morning, a young boy walked along the shore of a long stretch of beach. A strong tide had pulled back from the shore, leaving hundreds of starfish stranded in the sand. The boy knew that if they stayed on the beach out of the water, that the starfish would dry out in the sun and eventually die. Feeling a sense of urgency, he bent down, carefully picked up a starfish, and gently tossed it back into the ocean. He watched as it splashed back into the water, feeling proud of his small act. A man walked by, watching for a while, and then shaking his head and approaching the boy. "Young man, what are you doing?" "Saving starfish," the boy said, tossing another into the sea. The man let out a chuckle. "Oh, look around, there's thousands of them. You can't possibly make a difference." The boy shrugged, picked up another starfish, gently flung it into the waves. Made a huge difference to that one. The man opened his mouth and then closed it again. He stood there watching the boy with such determination, and something sparked in his heart. He sighed, and then, with a little groan, he bent down and picked up a starfish. As he flew it into the water, he said, "Well," he muttered, "I guess that one would appreciate it too." Then he tossed the starfish into the ocean. Before long, others on the beach noticed what the old man and the boy were doing and joined in until there were dozens of people on the beach, each one helping to save the starfish one at a time. What had seemed like an impossible task suddenly became one of hope and unity. The little boy's small action inspired a wave of kindness and generosity. As Grandma finished, the young girl sat quietly thinking, so even though the boy couldn't save all the starfish, it mattered because he helped a few? Grandma nodded exactly. When problems seem too big, it's easy to think we can't make a difference. But even the smallest act of kindness matters to the one who receives it. The girl smiled. So it's not about fixing everything. It's doing what we can. Right, says Grandma warmly. And who knows? Maybe your kindness will inspire someone else, just like that little boy on the beach. The girl looked out the window, watching the rain start to fall. She leaned against her grandmother and whispered, "One starfish at a time." Grandma squeezed her hand. That's the spirit. As the kiddos go back to their class, let's think about saving a starfish. Not a literal starfish, but let's think about some small act of kindness and generosity we can do. Something that we can achieve this week or this month or this year. We may not change the whole world, but for the person or people or creatures or moment that we touch, it can mean the world to them.
It's time for our song leaders to come forward. So would you please open your great hymnal to page 21, and let us rise in body and our spirit, and we're going to sing For the Beauty of the Earth. It's just lovely. Thank you so much. Well, I would like to welcome you to Buckman Bridge Unitarian Universalist Church, or as we call it, BBUUC. We are so glad if you are visiting here for the first time or you're returning. We hope you got a name tag this morning from the foyer so we can call you by name. Please stay also and join us in the back after the service so we can get to know you better. If you're ready for the next step, to find out about us, we also have classes that are offered that will help you understand Unitarian Universalism. What I love about UUs is that we are not defined by a creed, but by our deeds. Please help us if you haven't already. Silence your phone, and we hope that you enjoy our service today. I'd like to call David Relison to light our chalice this morning. Our chalice lighting is by Jay Wolin. Are we a people of holding on or letting go? Holding on to rigid ideas or letting go and opening our minds and hearts to something new? Holding on to certainty of how things should be or letting go, and living with the uncertainty of new ways and being in the world. Holding on to what makes us comfortable or letting go so we may grow, which can be uncomfortable. Holding on to what makes us safe or letting go to make room to help others feel safe. With this flame, this symbol of our religion, let it be a symbol of the burning of up the ties that hold us back from being our true self and reaching our true potential. Let it be a symbol of lighting a new way for us into a better tomorrow, and let it be a symbol of letting go, because holding on too long and too tightly is never good for the soul. Thank you, David. Please let us rise in body and our spirit as we sing our call to worship that is in your order of service. We are about to recite our Congregational covenant, which we created together during a really uncertain time when we were closed for COVID. After we came back, we created this promise, because that's what a covenant is. It's a promise of how we want to be together. So we could put in words, how we loved each other, and how we celebrated our differences, our diversity. It is a good thing that there is a space for all of us, despite what some people say. Please say it with me. We covenant to engage one another with honesty, kindness, and respect, to value diversity, seek understanding of our differences, and practice gracious accountability with care, love, and empathy. We make these promises to those who are here and those yet to come, so that we may be a safe, welcoming, and beloved community of acceptance, learning, and transformation.
red roses too. I see them bloom for me and you, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see skies of blue, clouds of white, bright sunny days and dark sacred nights, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. All the colors of the rainbow, they're so pretty in the sky, are also on the faces of the people going by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? They're really saying, I love you. I hear babies cry, I watch them grow. They'll learn much more than I'll ever know. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Yes, I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Yes, I think to myself, what a wonderful world.
Okay, Job, that was just the best. I love that song. It just makes me smile no matter what's going on. Oh my gosh. This place, these people, the offering we take this each Sunday is an opportunity to recommit to this place, to these people. It is much our ritual as singing together, lighting our chalice, reciting our covenant. It is a reminder of that form of love we call generosity. It is how we show that we believe it is important to worship together, to help our community, and to say yes to the values of our faith. We call on our offertory ushers, Bruce Peterson and Patty DeStefano, to collect our plates and help us carry out our mission of stewardship. How can you participate? Well, we need you to give back, so whether you do this by scanning the code in your order of service or going to the member page or turning in your pledge form, we want you to touch the plate to show our unity and passing it to your neighbor. After that, we're going to rise and sing Spirit of Life, hymn 123. Now time for Jennifer.
This is the second time I've been at Buckman Bridge, and walking up to the pulpit, my shoes come unglued. I thought I kicked something that belonged to Job, so now I feel better, although I'm slightly annoyed at my shoe. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for having me back in the pulpit. It's a beautiful day to worship together, and there's just something about this church. It is full of serendipity for me this morning. Some of it you will hear in this sermon based on what has happened already this morning. You'll hear it. I showed something in my sermon to Claudia this morning that I want you to know before I jump into this, that I don't coordinate my sermon with any of the other elements that happen in the service. So one of these things you will hear in this, and that's the first serendipity that jumped out at me. But it is a beautiful day. Spring is here. Spring is here. I'm certain of this because of the somewhat fickle weather. I was going to move all the plants out to the patio this weekend until I realized it was 47 last night. The Dollar General has the marshmallow peeps out right next to the leftover St. Patrick's Day gear. And if that doesn't tell you anything, the recent time change is a great indicator. So not only are the figurative dark days of winter over, so are the literal ones. The days are getting longer, and Earth is beginning to remind us that life does continue. The baby birds and the bunnies and the trees and all the flowers are in bloom. And here in Florida, the changing of the seasons is more subtle than melting snow and crocuses, or is it croci? I don't know. Croci popping up. But I guess instead of white snowdrifts melting away, we get yellow drifts of pollen. But as we move into the coming abundance of the season, I am feeling a sense of conflict, because I see a visible division between the natural, beneficent generosity of Mother Nature and what is going on in our current political landscape. And for many of us, in our day-to-day lives, I made the comment to my husband the other day that maybe he should make friends with his cousins in Mexico. He had an uncle that actually moved to Mexico many years ago, a redheaded guy. If you've met my husband, he's redheaded. So there are people in Mexico named Julio Bacmeister who are redheads. And I said, maybe we might need a place to go. And he said, why would we ever need a place to go? And I said, because I'm the president of my union. And he went, oh. It's been a hard grind lately. But now I'm not here to talk about politics. That is the last thing I want to spend our time on in this, our most precious hour of our week. I want to focus on the good that springtime reminds me of, the generosity of the planet, how thankful I am that the warm, minus that 47-degree temperature last night, the longer days, the baby bunnies that are back. And I want to figure out how to continue to share the abundance for the betterment of both us as individuals and our community. And part of that figuring out for me is coming here to Buckman Bridge. And this little piece of paper, because I'm kind of a Luddite. I like things I can touch and carry around with me. I take this home with me every week, and you can see I've already, even though I'm the speaker today, I've written little notes on the front of it. I do this every week. And first serendipity is, Claudia mentioned this morning, it's Women's Month and Craft Month, and the first two names I saw was Beth Curtis and Liz Baldwin. And if those aren't two women who are crafty, I don't know who are. Liz puts our service together, and Beth is our RE director. And every week I go through this and I see my little announcements. And once upon a time, I even used the QR code to pay my pledge. I was very proud of myself because that was really hard. And on the back of this, every week, is our statement of values. And it used to be the 7 principles. And the 7 principles haven't gone away, which is good. But if you spend any time with our new You Use value statement, you may have noticed that generosity is now listed specifically, along with transformation, pluralism, interdependence, equity, and justice, which all relate back to our core value of love. However, you may have also noticed that generosity wasn't specifically listed in those 7 principles. Now, I have always loved the 7 principles, and similar to some of your experiences, it's how I first started internalizing what being a UU meant. And it's been useful shorthand for me for a long time to explain to other people what being a UU meant, especially when trying to explain it all. Of the original 7, there were 3 that I have always found spoke directly to having that generous spirit. The first principle was the inherent worth and dignity of all persons, because you have to have an open heart, a generous heart, to see other people's intrinsic value. The second principle, which is justice, equity, and compassion in human relations, because you can't be just, equitable, and compassionate and stingy at the same time. And the 6th principle, the goal of world community with peace, justice, and liberty for all, because without generosity, there isn't peace. Our planet is a finite resource. If you can't share, there won't be any peace. So whichever value statement you prefer, or whichever one of the 7 principles, it's clear that generosity is absolutely a core expression of love and essential to interdependence. And as UUs, we give not out of obligation, but as an act of covenant with one another. But UUs aren't alone in understanding the power of generosity. And I bet most of you are familiar with Acts chapter 20, verse 35 from the Christian Bible, right? Y'all know that one, right? You do. It's more blessed to give than to receive. See, y'all were scholars and you didn't know it. And the Bible, of course, is full of advice regarding generosity, although you might not know it. 2 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 7 says, "Each of you should give what you have decided in your heart to give, not reluctantly or under compulsion, for God loves a cheerful giver." Deuteronomy chapter 15, verse 10 says, "Give generously to them and do so without a grudging heart. Then because of this, the Lord your God will bless you in all your work and everything you put your hand to." And finally, 1 Timothy chapter 6, verses 17 through 19 is quite explicit and one of my favorites. "Command those who are rich in this present world not to be arrogant, nor to put their hope in wealth. Command them to do good, to be rich in good deeds, and to be generous and willing to share. In this way, they will lay up treasure for themselves as a firm foundation for the coming age, so that they may take hold of the life that is truly life." Sounds like rules for kindergarten, right? Y'all play nice, get along, share what you've got. In Islam, zakat is the 3rd of the 5 pillars of the religion. Zakat, though, is compulsory giving based on a giver's income level and must be directed to 8 specific categories. The categories, though, focus on care for the community's most vulnerable. Muslims also have other forms of charity and generosity that support needs that don't fit within those 8 categories. And Judaism has the practice of tzedakah, which does not spell like the way it sounds, because I had to write it down so I said it right. The word actually means righteousness in Hebrew, but is frequently used in the context of charity. In contrast with the form of charity most of us know, tzedakah is an ethical obligation and a way to empower poor people. There are special kinds of tzedakah for special days like weddings and at Passover and Purim. The leaving of gleanings or unharvested crops is a form of tzedakah. In Buddhism, dana, meaning giving, is a foundational virtue. The Dharma Wisdom website, explained dana far better than I can, so I'm going to quote them. Dana, in its original context, refers to the giving of alms in the form of money or food to the monks. Dana is one of 3 kinds of meritorious behavior, along with sila, which is ethical behavior, and bhavana, mental development through meditation. The Buddha taught that 5 blessings accrue to the giver of dana: the affection of many people, noble association, good reputation, self-confidence, and a heavenly rebirth. I like the part that the rebirth was the last one. The Buddha was quite clear that it is harmful for a person to attempt to buy these blessings with money or good conduct. Generosity is regarded as one of the perfections that a bodhisattva achieves on the way to enlightenment. Dana is also understood as a form of kindness and compassion practice motivated by unconditional caring for another. End quote. There is also sweat dana, which includes doing things like working in a soup kitchen or on a project, like well digging for a community. So whether you call it zakat, dana, tzedakah, or just plain old generosity, it is a universal spiritual practice, not just a Unitarian Universalist practice. But beyond the spiritual aspect, there is also scientific evidence that being generous is good for your mental and physical health. A 1999 study on volunteering looked at a group of adults aged 55 and older. Yes. The study participants reported where they volunteered, how many hours they spent doing volunteer work, and they underwent a physical exam. After 5 years, the adults who helped the most were 44% more likely to be alive. That's the actual wording from the study. I wasn't worried about from 55 to 60 about my 44% chances of being alive, and now I'm just a little concerned, but this seems like really good news for most of us in this room. 44% more likely to be alive. Generosity in the form of volunteering also fosters community building, and it can build social bonds, which we all know are critical for reducing feelings of loneliness and isolation. And people with strong social bonds report better health outcomes and generally better mental health. I think we all learned that through the pandemic. And financial generosity may be just as powerful for the giver, too. A study in Great Britain gave 128 adults between the ages of 65 and 85 $40 each week for 3 weeks. Now, that's not a lot of money. With random assignments, half of the adults were told to spend the money on themselves, and the other half were told you can only spend it on somebody else. The participants' blood pressure was measured before, during, and after the payments were made for these 3 weeks. They used blood pressure because it's easily measured, it's consistent between people, and also because blood pressure has significant implications on long-term health. Those who started the study with high blood pressure and were assigned to donate to others saw a significant reduction in their blood pressures. Changes comparable to the effects that medication and exercise would have had. Those with high blood pressure who spent the money on themselves experienced no change. So when you donate money, you stand to benefit as much, if not more than, the receiver, because $40 isn't really a lot of money. It's probably less than the cost of blood pressure medicine would cost you in the United States anyway. An important point here, though, many of the studies that I found about the effects of generosity is that generosity is not solely defined by how much time you spend or how much money you spend, because the most economically disadvantaged person can also be the most generous, because generosity also includes attention and kindness. It's a completely fictitious story, but it proves my point here, so I'm going to use it. In the movie Evan Almighty, God, who's played by Morgan Freeman, who spends the entire movie in lovely white suits, you have to see it, chooses Senator Evan Baxter, of course a politician, played by Steve Carell, which is hilarious. He chooses him to build an ark, and he tells him to save the world from the flood that's coming. And if you haven't seen the movie, it's hilarious. You really should see it. Spoiler alert, though. So cover your ears if you want to see it and you haven't seen it. But at the end, when, of course, the corrupt politicians are brought to justice and everybody ends happily, God reveals what ARK actually stood for: acts of random kindness, which is what Beth's story was about, and I didn't tell her that. Because that's what will actually save the world, and that's what he says in the movie. That's what the ark was. acts of random kindness. So the point is, it's not necessary to have a hospital wing named after you to be considered a generous person. And I wish there was more information about that science of generosity that includes those intangible aspects. But such is the nature of our world. We tend to focus on what we can measure objectively, or at least we pay for the studies that can do that. But unfortunately, it's difficult to be generous if you're afraid of not having what you need. And as long as we have forces in our world trying, and currently succeeding in some cases, to convince us that others are trying to take away what is ours, we're fighting a scarcity mindset. I bet every person in this room has a story where you tried to do a good thing and it backfired. Maybe the mistake cost you money or time, or maybe you got your feelings hurt in a very public way, or maybe just in a private way. But the error we make is focusing on that one incident instead of recalling and amplifying the multitude of times over the course of your whole life that your effort affected positive change for someone. But I think the problem is that remembering is hard to do because you don't always see the end result. And I want to share a story with you from when I was in Iraq back in 2004. I was deployed with a National Guard unit out of Augusta, Georgia. I was in a construction team. One of my team's duties, though, when we were in Iraq, was to escort the community affairs teams when they made humanitarian visits into small towns and villages in southern Iraq. And when I say village, I mean in the sense of a few dozen houses made out of mud bricks that they made by hand. They had open cooking fires. All of the children and most of the adults were barefoot all year round. And most of these towns had a schoolhouse. It was probably the biggest building in the town, but they had been abandoned since the beginning of Saddam Hussein's reign, because one of Saddam's political tactics was to cut the funding for his enemies in the south, which is where all these villages were, and that included funds for teacher salaries, school supplies, and maintenance of these buildings. Kind of like the Department of Education. In fact, many of my team's missions, because we were a construction group, were to identify and coordinate resources to rebuild these schoolhouses so that they could open during Saddam's tenure. Now, realize these are literally, we wouldn't call them buildings. They were bricks, mud brick structures with straw thatched roofs. They had light fixtures that were gone. The ceiling fans had been stolen. Even the doors, and they weren't glass windows. They were window frames with metal mesh over them just to keep the animals from coming in. And usually the furniture had either all been stolen by Saddam's troops, or they had been removed from the building and burned for firewood, or had been traded off for food when the villagers didn't have anything. Most of these schools had a blackboard that was literally a piece of plywood that had been painted black and bolted to the wall. And that was their school. The community affairs teams would come in with pallets of supplies, mostly provided from donation drives that had been held in the United States. They brought backpacks, notebooks, pencils, sometimes calculators, and all kinds of books on math and science and social studies and just anything you could think of. And there was always chalk for the teachers. There was always a big box of chalk. Sometimes it was white chalk, sometimes it was green chalk, sometimes it was boxes of rainbow colored chalk. It didn't matter. It was chalk. And the absolute joy on the faces of not just the kids, but the adults, and not just the teachers, the adults in these communities. We would pull up in 5 Humvees and a deuce and a half, which is the big truck with the pallets on the back of it. We'd unload pallets, and you'd see 3 brick buildings and a schoolhouse, and all of a sudden there'd be 75 people and 25 kids, literally like out of the sand dunes. I don't know where they came from, cheering to see this stuff show up. It was unreal, and it's something I will never forget. Some of these kids were 10 and 12 years old and had never been to school because they were preschool when the war with Saddam started and had never, ever been to school. And I truly hope those kids in Iraq got to learn as much as they wanted to. And I hope they felt some peace from knowing that complete strangers who they will never meet and who will never know the outcomes of their donations, those people who cared about them simply because they're people of this earth. To be generous is to have faith that you are releasing good into the world. You will likely never meet the person wearing the socks you donated in October. You don't know who isn't hungry because your change supported the food bank the first of the month. But then again, like acts of random kindness, the world is kind of a strange and marvelous place, so maybe you will. So think of your generosity not as a pebble making ripples in a pond, because you won't see the ripples. Your generosity in many cases is more like an undersea earthquake, silent and anonymous, creating a great wave far away, but not in a destructive kind of way. And I wrote nature metaphors are hard, but I liked what Job said earlier, is that it's not pretty, but it works. And so as we come near the end of our time today, I want to offer a little bit more from the Dharma Wisdom website. And in offering real-life examples of dana, the writer explains, monks, nuns, and lay teachers offer the Dharma, which is Buddhist knowledge, as their practice of dana, of giving. They, in turn, are supported by dana from students. For lay people living among monks in Southeast Asia, it is common practice to provide food, robes, and other small necessities of life, as well as financial gifts for the monastery and travel stipends for the monastics. In the United States, this practice of dana is also the basis of support for monastics living in the forest tradition. At the Abhaya Gira Monastery in Northern California, monks and nuns go on monthly alms rounds for food in the small town in which it is located. Lay people will bring food to the monastery and serve lunch to the monks and nuns. Lunch is the last meal of the day for these monks, and they can only receive what is offered to them. So when you stand in line, placing food in the bowl of one monk after another, the joy of giving is palpable. When you mindfully practice dana, you come into contact with its joyful, healing power. And the website continues with something that might sound familiar. The deeper lesson is that each of us is equally dependent on others for the blessing of our food. We are all interconnected with one another and with the earth in a web that goes beyond the marketplace of commercial exchange. We flourish or perish together through interwoven acts of dana, arising from benevolence and integrity of people we shall never meet. This too is the power of dana. Even when practiced without consciousness, it arises and spreads. The UU value statement says, we live our lives through action. Generosity connects us in relationship and brings more love and justice into the world. Maybe we're all borderline Buddhists and we don't know it. It is impossible for me to imagine a world that is interconnected, where resources and lives and outcomes are inextricably intertwined, without also realizing that generosity and trust go hand in hand. Which also means generosity is more than just an action. It's more than writing a check, dropping off some canned goods, checking on a neighbor, or helping a stranger. Generosity is a way of being that has the power to transform us and the world. To be generous is to consciously set aside fear of the unknown, fear of being judged, fear of people or ideas that are different from us or what we know. Today, It's almost an act of rebellion. In these trying times, our generosity is our antidote to fear. It's a wedge against the narrowing of viewpoints and a balm for our wounded hearts. I encourage each of you to be as generous as you can in all the ways you can, for your open heart and your giving spirit has the power to save not just yourself, but the whole world. May it be so.
Oh, I just wanted to say, okay, now that was just the best thing I ever heard. And also, I can't help but think about, even with us dedicating our band book library, Jennifer was very key in that happening because she donated that, she founded and donated it to us. So, again, this is another way of showing that generosity. Yes, one day we'll have other things and all, but that was our first step, and it was just so important. So I want to acknowledge that. Okay, all right. It's time for our closing hymn. Come thou fount of every blessing. Please, song leaders, come forward. Page 126. David, Relison, would you return to extinguish our chalice? Our benediction. Share your glorious light with the world. Within each of our hearts there is a most glorious light. Go forth and let its spark help you understand what troubles both you and others. Go forth and let its light of reason be a guide in your decisions. Go forth and bring its ray of hope to those in need of help in both body and spirit, that they may find healing. Go forth and fan the flames of passion to help heal our world. Go forth and spread the warm glow of love, pushing back the darkness of the world. Go forth and share your glorious light with the world. Amen. Namaste.